Looking for a Blizzard, trying to bait Twisted Minds into GeeKay. Looks like GeeKay are free to push this left building. TVNT has a healthy shield. You got the overclock from Roho. TVNT eats the UB Blizzard. And meanwhile, the Blizzard from Checkmate is thrown. Twisted Minds aren't frozen, but they are down tremendous. Calyx now just drops the sound barrier. And GeeKay are pushing in deep into the metro of Twisted Minds, who fall back to their secondary position around respawn.
Hello everyone, welcome back to some more Overwatch analysis. It's been a hot second since I released some of these videos, but with the Saudi eLeague finishing last weekend, I thought what better time to delve into some of those games, some of the players, and figure out what they were doing right, what they were doing wrong. Before we delve too far into that, I just want to point you guys to the description below. I'm offering private coaching. If anyone has any interest in that, feel free to join my Discord, drop a message, or just join the Discord if you want to hang out and talk about the videos as well. All are welcome. Likewise, like, subscribe. You know the deal. You guys have watched a YouTube video before. But enough of that. Let's delve into the main topic of today's video, which is how to play Mei like Checkmate. If you saw Saudi eLeague, you saw that Checkmate's team, GeeKay Esports, played mostly this composition and actually did really well on it, especially the grand finals. They really pushed Twisted Minds, who were the heavy favourites, all the way. So in today's video, we're going to take a closer look at how he plays Mei, particularly in this type of mirror, why he's so good at it, why it works so well for him, and all of that good stuff. One of the reasons Mei is so common when you play these sort of brawl competitions against each other is because her wall is so strong in the neutral. So the basic idea, I'm sure you guys, if you've watched a lot of games recently, will be aware, it's can you wall off their Sigma, and then can you connect your Mei left click, connect your Lucio boop, and connect your Sig Rock to try and cancel his Matrix, and then find yourself a really nice kill timing. So that's exactly what Checkmate does in all of these situations, and we can take a little bit of a look at it here. One important thing in the sort of Mei head-to-head is can you find the walls first? Can you find more value? And a lot of that, Checkmate does a really good job of it, but a lot of it is really just map knowledge, playing your counterpart in terms of the enemy Sigma, and finding opportunities to punish him. So if we watch this initial fight here from Checkmate, it's just kind of in the poke stage, just taking odd shots, seeing what he can get. Then he spots his opportunity. Okay, I can wall off not just the heals, but the Mei. It's always super important if you can separate the Sigma and the Mei. Likewise, that's why it's always important for you to stand close to your Sigma, so the enemy Mei can't do it to you. Because the Mei is so good at stopping you connecting your left click. But because there's no Mei, because Checkmate's walled good, he can try and connect his left click straight away. And the left click's so good because obviously it slows the Sigma, it makes the Rock so much easier, it makes the Boop so much easier, and it makes it so much harder for KSA to use his own shield to counterplay those two things. Obviously, you have to respect that the enemy Sigma might try and rock you in the face. So we see Checkmate do a pretty good job here, just skirting around the corner to avoid this. And importantly, he doesn't have to use his Ice Block. If you have to use your Ice Block, it's not the end of the world, but if he can save for cooldown, you're going to be really happy about it. So he manages to do that. He then realises now that the flow of the fight is, well, they were able to win an initial HP trade, but they've now got to respect the fact that Yubi's come back and might use a wall of his own. So Checkmate chooses not to go any further. Seems really reasonable. Wants to respect Yubi's wall. Manages to back out. And now we're back at the poke stage of the fight. But again, because Checkmate didn't have to use his Ice Block, he can actually now be quite aggressive in this poke phase of a fight because he's got that panic button if he needs it. So he's going to start poking KSA. You can see lamps used. You can see this health advantage is still dramatically in the favour of GeeKay. It's really hard for KSA to recover from this position. So he's just going to keep poking, but it's just a point now where they all turn him and force his Ice Block, but they've swung the other side at the same time, put Twisted Minds in this pincer, and it's really just too hard for Twisted Minds to deal with. They played the map situation a lot better. They played the layout of the map, and they won that initial cooldown trade, and they're able to chain that into winning the next cooldown trade as well. In this very next fight, we can see a lot of the same principles being applied. One interesting thing to note is how GeeKay hold this one, and you'll see Checkmate does this loads. Every time he has the opportunity, can he set up on the opposite side of his Sigma on this choke? So if Twisted Minds want to walk out in this choke, they have two options. They can try and walk and force the Ice Block, but then obviously TVNT is going to get a lot of value. Likewise, they can try and walk into TVNT, but then Checkmate can just be quite aggressive and walk into the back of them. So it makes it a really difficult situation for KSA and his team to walk into, and this is why he does it so much. And it's just a really effective way to hold chokes, especially you with Mei Sigma or Mei Rhine or Mei anything, really. We're then going to see they're going to try and walk up here, Twisted Minds. And once again, Checkmate, keen, aggressive, spots this opportunity to get what looks like the perfect wall off. We've cut off for heals, we've cut off for May, and we'll be able to put a really big chance to get this rock onto Sigma here. But what happens is Kellex actually makes a really nice play, just gets over the wall in time, manages to boot Checkmate back, and now all of a sudden, Checkmate realises the state of a fight. Now, in an ideal world, he'd want to be aggressive onto KSA here, but he knows his wall is going to get broken soon, and then Yubi's going to have a chance to use his own wall. So he has to recognise the game state and that they went with one set of cooldowns. They nearly got value, but Kellex outplayed them. Now they need to be ready to take a step back and deal with the next wall. Make sure he's ready to help TVNT in case he needs any help. And that's kind of what we see here. They're going to drop the window so they keep being aggressive. Unfortunately, Quartz is going to swing, as he often did in this tournament, and just headshot Landon straight away. So they're going to try and be aggressive. They do sort of win the cooldown trade, but obviously since they've lost their main source of healing, in trouble. Again, you see Checkmate just trusting his dodging ability so he can save his ice block. He doesn't need to use it for the rock. So again, just outplaying KSA here. He's going to hit a nice wall again. In theory, this could be a really nice timing to punish KSA. Instead of going for KSA, TVNT's gone for this big, deep in the back flux. He knows which is, maybe KSA was the better one, but he knows he needs to clutch because they lost Landon. So it's maybe not the worst decision. But if we focus on Checkmate, we can see his ice block's now forced, and eventually they will be bled out. But despite losing this fight, you can see there was actually two good opportunities found. One good wall here, one good wall here. And if Quartz doesn't swing and kill Landon, I imagine KSA is losing this frontline trade quite a lot better because he's been walled twice, because they would have got two big chances to put him under a big pressure cycle. We've seen Checkmate now take two pretty standard neutrals where he's just looking for effective wall value and just trying to win the trade in quite a traditional front-to-back sense. Here we're going to see him on Esperanza where he's going to exploit the fact that the map layout has these kind of big pincery flanks, a little bit like we saw on Downtown, and we're going to see him make a very decisive flanking call to win this first neutral. So initially, he's just in the spamming phase, poking out, trying to send a lot of shots in Quartz's direction, make it hard. And you see now he makes this very quick movement where he's going to peek here, then immediately as soon as he DPs, he's going to start rotating around here to set up his pincer. He's going to do that. He's going to get a bit of speed here from the main man himself, Speedy. He's going to drop this really nice wall. So the reason he drops the wall here instead of here is because it's very easy for the Bap to jump over the wall if it's on the low ground and still have value. Same for the Sojourn, you can still see over it. But this wall actually makes the Bap's life a lot harder, gives him a bigger opening. So then if we see what value can Checkmate get from this position, well, immediately he's getting cleave freeze. He's going to get the slow onto the Sigma. He's going to force the ice block. Going to set up the easiest rock in the world for TVNT. And then they're just able to really win the neutral very convincingly from this point. Has his ice block. And they can eventually clean up the rest of the fight. We saw Checkmate get a lot of value in his Brawl neutrals by getting more Mei wall value than any Mei he played against in this tournament. Likewise, that left click value was really high. He was able to outplay the enemy Sigma Rock on a lot of occasions and save his ice block. And even on Esperanza at the end, we see him get a lot of flank value. And we can take a look at a couple of clips from Midtown now where we see him getting that flank value again in a slightly different sense. So this is their Midtown first hold. And this is how a lot of teams hold where they have their core in this kind of area, the Sojourn swinging a little bit wider, but TVNT is just going to try and hold in this line. And the Mei Lucio is going to be responsible for essentially this side of the map. Don't let anyone take too much space in this green room. Don't let anyone take too much space. Alley. So it's really important when you play this flank side, you recognise what your job is. You have to be wary that what to do if Twisted Minds try and 5-man push you. Well, then you need to give space. And likewise, you need to be ready to commit aggressively if Twisted Minds choose to commit the other side. And we can see an example of Checkmate doing a bit of both here. So initially, he's going to start here with Oi, but he's going to see, the whole gang is coming to get me. So immediately, use my cooldowns defensively. We have to use them both quickly. We managed to get out. We managed to back up. And now we can start putting a little bit of pressure on. So we're still kind of holding the same way, but obviously we've now got a little bit less of a map because they were able to 5-man clear us and we weren't able to find any value in the meantime. But that's okay. We can still hold this position. Unfortunately, what's going to happen, like we saw in the earlier clip, Quartz is going to swing wide. He's got the opening pick again. So now at this point, Checkmate realizes, well, I could go mark Quartz, but Quartz probably still has shift. It's a really hard kill for me and my Lucio to go get. So instead, he takes a couple of peeks, isn't quite able to hit the dink. They realise it's too far. They then get the call from their team that we're getting pushed. We're getting pushed a lot. And in theory, there should be a wrap from Twisted Minds. They've got the opening pick. They've managed to separate the two groups pretty effectively. But Checkmate does a really good job with Oi here to close the distance, manages to get back, puts the pressure on, helps him get one kill, just about gets back inside, and all of a sudden, GeeKay have managed to turn a situation that looked really unwinnable from them after that opening pick and after the positions they found themselves in. But they do a really good job to stabilise and clean up the rest of the kills, and I think in big part to Checkmate recognising his responsibility when he can no longer mark this area and his team's getting pushed, that he has to come and collapse on the other side of it. If we take a look at second, we can see a really similar setup where most of GeeKay are going to hold the main angle, while Checkmate and Oi are going to be on this difficult to remove off-angle position where they can help shoot main a lot, stop the cart moving. They can also mark this angle and flank and stop Quartz or anybody else using it to their own advantage. And what we're going to see here is Checkmate's going to peek this side early, and he's going to hit a few dinks onto UB and onto Kellex. And he's going to force him out. And it's really important that Checkmate peeks him this early, because if he peeks this corridor while the Mei Lucio are around this end of it, they've got to walk this horrible long stretch of corridor where it's really easy for Checkmate to put early damage on them and force them back. And as we just saw in the clip, you see UB and Kellex decide, well, we can't really push this anymore. But let's say Checkmate didn't peek this early and UB and Kellex are able to get to this door before Checkmate sees them. All of a sudden, we then just have a 2v2 that's pretty 50-50 here. So Checkmate does a really good job, and it's really important he keeps his awareness on this corridor so he gets to peek him when he has positional advantage rather than too late. Then he knows he's cleared him out. He can go back and help main. Just shoot in main, just shoot in main. You see him give another little quick check with his vision to make sure no one's coming. You can see his team's also even pinging the Mei for him, because that's the most important thing for GeeKay now and for Checkmate to keep holding his position. It's information on if they're trying to clear him or not. So he has the information, they're not trying to clear him, they're just trying to push main. So he's going to help main a little bit more again. He now obviously sees the Mei in front of him, so he knows it's unlikely the Mei's flanking because he can see him with his own two eyes. Is going to get his ice block forced, unfortunately, but continues to hold this position with a bit of help from Oi. Now we see UB make a pretty good decision, actually, to wall him off. Difficult for a Mei Lucio to kill this wall quickly, while the rest of Twisted Minds try and walk and push this side. And we're going to see Checkmate make the exact same decision he made on first. He's got to respond, and respond quickly. It's not just about pushing your side when you realise the pressure is somewhere else. You've got to do it quickly, because the other team is going to be trying to be very aggressive very quickly as well. So we see Checkmate respond as quickly as he can, drops his wall up, then sees a great opportunity for a Mei ult. He's going to freeze not just the Mei, but also the Sigma. Manages to clean up the Sigma with a bit of help from Oi. Then we end up in this 2v2 situation. Well, not quite 2v2, it's a bit messy, but we see here, and this is really important for your Mei Lucio whenever you're playing these grouped off angles or you're taking these duels, is how good is your synergy? How well can you play together? And in this particular mid-fight, we can see Checkmate and Oi have kept themselves together in sync on the same target, whereas UB's been drawn to try and kill Landon because he's low. Meanwhile, Kellex had to play his life. They get a little bit split, and this just sets up Checkmate and Oi to finish it off, and in theory should put them in a pretty good situation. And they do eventually just about clean up this clutch. We can take a look at a few more Mei ults now, because as well as the Mei will be in one of the crucial factors in why Mei is so good in the neutral in these comps, her ult is probably, maybe even arguably, the most powerful ult in this mirror as well. So it's super important you get high value out of Mei ults consistently, and Checkmate across this tournament, as well as the Overwatch League Grand Finals, was consistently getting really high Mei ult value. And we can take a look at what I would probably call just his textbook standard Mei ult setup here. So he's going to walk in, get his initial wall. We get a pretty similar thing that we talked about where he doesn't quite completely block off the Mei, but he separates them a little bit, separates the heals, gives himself a chance to walk. Now he's going to drop the left click. Again, you can see what we were talking about before, where he's hugging this corner in case he needs to de-peek anything. Gives himself plenty of option. Going to drop the left click on him, and now he's forced the Sig shift. Now he's forced the Sig shift, he knows his Mei ult can't get eaten, which means as soon as this shift runs out, he feels pretty comfortable to chuck it. Now KSA actually makes a pretty nice outplay here with the ultimate, but at the same time, TVNT hits a nice rock onto Kellex that forces him into it, as well as forcing the ice block, and eventually they're able to clean up these kills just in time because of that. And then they're able to clean up the dogfight that ensues afterwards. But this is what I'd call a pretty standard textbook Mayolt coming out from Checkmate. We can see a slightly different variation of the same type of Mayolt from Checkmate here on the Midtown defense. Again, he's holding us opposite side, making it hard for the choke. Also gives him the ability to mark the flank, as we talked about before. He's going to let KSA walk in a little bit. Drops for Maywall. This time, as soon as he sees that rock timing, he looks for the Mayolt. And he's going to throw this one quite deep. So he's going to throw it into this area, which means KSA can dodge the Mayolt, but the only way he can dodge the Mayolt is forward. So there's two options here. Either Kellex doesn't have amp or they mess up the disengage and some of these guys freeze. Or if KSA disengages, he 100% freezes, which means KSA has to walk forward, which means there's this huge gap then where KSA has to kite forward, but everyone else kites back, and this is a great time for them to kill Sigma, which, if we watch this Mayolt, is exactly what happens. You can see Kellex, Quartz, UB, Majid all do a good job getting out of it, but which way does KSA have to go? Well, he has to go right into the mixer, and there's just no chance for him here, right? So this is a really nice Mayolt from Checkmate. Again, the throwing it quite deep, I think, is the important part here. And it just gives KSA no real good option to live this Mayolt. Another type of Mayolt that Checkmate consistently finds value with is what on London we'd call the turn Mayolt, where you absorb pressure, your May D-peaks a corner or hide somewhere, and then springs back out to catch anyone who's overextending on the chase with Mayolt. This is something he'd had a lot of success with in this tournament for GeeKay, as well as a lot of success with for Florida, and it was something Twisted Minds were certainly guilty of a couple of times in terms of overextending. So if we look at the start of this fight, Quartz has killed Landon to begin with it. No surprises there. Quartz did this a lot in the tournament. But it means the rest of GeeKay have to walk backwards. But you can see here, Checkmate's already a step ahead, thinking about, can I just hide somewhere or do something? So if Twisted Minds push here, chasing the stagger kills, I have a chance to turn with Mayolt. In this particular example, everyone's going to D-peak with him as well. So it's not a very good hiding spot if the whole team's hiding here. But nevertheless, Twisted Minds are going to keep coming. They're going to push in. And this means, at this point here, when this ice block is forced, you can see UB's just got a little bit ahead. Obviously, KSA's trying to shield off one angle, which means UB's going to take all of this damage. So he has to have his ice block forced. But Checkmate realizes this is the go. This is the go time. You can see this Mayolt as well. We saw him throw a really deep one on Midtown first. But here, he knows KSA still has eat up. And he really is focused on making sure he just gets UB. So he throws it just a little short here. Underarm throw. Nice and short. Make sure KSA has no chance to eat it. Just focus on getting the one freeze. He's going to get exactly that. They get the UB kill. And this really then opens it up for them to turn and punish Twisted Minds overextension here. The last clip we'll look at will involve a Mayolt versus Mayolt situation, which is pretty common in this mirror matchup that you have in these situations. And Checkmate, more often than not, would Mayolt second. It's normally a little bit safer to Mayolt second because you can always catch the May who goes first with the later freeze and you can ice block through theirs. So generally speaking, going second is easier. If you want to go first, you really have to have a pretty juicy May Blizzard on the cards. So if we look at Checkmate here, UB's going to make a pretty early committal. Checkmate's just going to try and clear some space, swing this angle, help his team walk through this choke. At a certain point here, UB's going to try and commit quite aggressively with the Mayolt. Now, TBNT's going to eat the Mayolt, which, if this happens, it's really easy to win the Mayolt trade. But even if TBNT doesn't eat this one here, you can see Checkmate just waits a couple of seconds, realizes KSA is too far away to eat it, chucks his own Mayolt, walls off any potential heals. They've super confirmed this kill. Wins the Mayolt trade, able to kill the May, and now they can walk forward and take space. Again, as we see him walk up here, KSA is going to try and rock him as he tries to connect his left click. But a nice little bit of movement here from Checkmate to backstep. Able to keep going. This means, just like in the very first clip we watched, he's managed to save his ice block. So now when he's pushing Quartz, who's about to pop the Sojourn ult and has rail, he's able to ice block it to make sure he lives. They've now forced Twisted Minds out. Another wall onto the Sigma to apply more pressure. Not close enough to get any left click damage on, but forces them out. And now we can see him also instilling the normal type of hold we see, where we see the Sigma on one side and the May on the other, which is going to make it really hard for them to walk back in here. And he's going to do exactly that. As they try and walk back in, he's just going to put a little bit of pressure on, just trying to dink anything that comes through the choke. Gonna find a really nice wall timing here to stop the TP coming in. So now all of a sudden, because they have to walk the whole distance, this window from Landon's gonna get loads of value. He's able to just keep shooting stuff in the back. Lots and lots of damage. Just finishes everything off. Still has his ice block and helps his team get a really pretty clean and pretty important first cap. I think that last clip really encapsulates a lot of all the things Checkmate does well and did so consistently well. It would be fair to say that he did have a weaker performance, I think, in the grand finals compared to the rest of the tournament, and we'll maybe explore some of that in a later video. But to focus on Checkmate, how he plays Mei, the important things if you want to start playing more like Checkmate is got to be focused around winning the neutral. You have to get Mei ult value. You have to know your spots where you can get these good walls on the enemy Sigma, and you want to connect that left click straight away. Don't forget to use your Sigma's shield or cover to dodge the rock. Try and save your ice block if you can, so you can use it later in the fight for your next cycle of pushing. On these bigger maps, say like Midtown or most payload maps, think about marking and flanking. When is it important for you to peek early to mark a flank? When is it important for you to push your side really aggressively because the enemy team's making a move? Checkmate always is very good and very decisive at making these decisions. If you do the same thing, you'll find yourself getting a lot of value as well. And last, and maybe perhaps most importantly, Mei ult value. If you just win your Mei ult fights, you've got a pretty good chance of winning any map. And one thing Checkmate did was consistent Mei ult value, whether if it was just a standard wall into force, sig shift, drop the ult, knowing when to drop it deep, when to drop it short, and knowing how to play these more complicated Mei ult versus Mei ult situations. Checkmate really was a standout player in this tournament, as many would have expected going into it, and I think he really demonstrated a lot of core fundamentals of how the Mei should be played in this matchup. Hopefully you agree. If you have any comments, please feel free to leave them below, and I'll see you guys in the next one.